Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Saint from 2017. When this came up on Netflix, I remembered the Val Kilmer movie and some episodes of the old Ian Ogilvy version of the show, so I thought I'd give it a go. It felt like a good time for a reboot of this particular franchise. This version was directed by Ernie Barbarash, who's done some Van Damme and Michael J. White movies recently. And it was written by Jesse Alexander, who you will know from Heroes, Alias, and more recently Star Trek Discovery and American Gods. He also wrote one of my favourite computer games, Apocalypse, back in the day. Tony Gigolo is the other co-writer who's written some of the Death Race sequels. So here's the premise. As you might know if you know The Saint, international master thief Simon Templar, also known as The Saint, is asked by a desperate rich man to find his kidnapped daughter. However, in addition to evading the authorities, Simon must face a dangerous adversary from his past. So who's in the cast? Adam Rayner is Simon Templar, and he's been in quite a lot of different TV series. Eliza Dushku from Buffy and Dollhouse is Patricia, who's his partner. Ian Ogilvy is the Fixer, and Christopher Villiers is Simon Templar's father in the flashback sequences. The cast is quite large and it's rounded out by some really interesting stalwarts, people like James Remar and Greg Grunberg, who's in quite a lot of Jesse Alexander's other shows. So what was it like? Well, the first 15 to 20 minutes had me cringing, and I was wondering if this was genuinely made in 2017. The plot and the dialogue were really predictable, to the point I was completing people's sentences in my head, and not in a good way. It felt much more like a TV movie or a pilot episode. So I checked, and that's exactly what it was. This was a pilot for a TV series that never went ahead. So I guess I need to look at it slightly differently because the pacing is very different from a regular 90-minute movie. As the running time moves on, they start to introduce more and more characters to round out the ensemble cast ready for the series. I did think Patricia, Eliza Dushku's character, was going to just be a woman walking on the beach giving the Saint information in his ear as he did missions, so I was pleased when she finally joined up with him and proved herself to be just as capable. He does have a line, "She's not my sidekick, she's my associate." The problem here, though, was once Eliza Dushku is in the film more, her acting, her fighting, and her general screen presence were far superior to his. So maybe she should have been the Saint and they should have mixed it up a lot more. It's also made me wish that Dollhouse would come back because I'm one of the people that actually love that show. There are some good fight scenes for both leads, but I didn't really care enough about the characters to really invest in it. Roger Moore has a cameo, and him and Ian Ogilvy both being in the film kind of hammers home the golfing class between this and the original series. So what did I like about it? Well, the TV stalwarts I mentioned, Eliza Dushku and Greg Grunberg, they had some class to proceedings, and in their scenes they massively elevate the material, even with the most cheesy lines. Although the flashbacks are also a bit cheesy, I did like the fact you saw some training and see him as a kid learning to fight and learning to be a thief. What do I think could have been better? The script was the main problem I had. It was overloaded with exposition, and at times it almost felt like a parody. Jokes failed to land, and it felt forced and kind of very 90s. And I guess we've moved on from these kind of 22-episode TV shows that are run on a network that maybe try a little bit too hard to be funny. I didn't buy Rayner as Simon Templar. If this was a regular movie, someone like Dominic Cooper would have been a better fit. But if you're comparing it to other TV shows, you know, he certainly doesn't have the charm of someone like Alex O'Loughlin, who's in Hawaii Five-0. Ian Ogilvy doing a cameo would probably have been better than having him as the main villain. His scenery chewing didn't really work for me either. Overall, I wasn't quite sure how to rate this. Based on it being a regular movie, it was pretty awful, but then thinking of it as a network show pilot, I kind of wanted to cut it a little bit of slack. But then again, I look back at season 1 of Hawaii Five-0 and how that hit the ground running, and admittedly that show has kind of moved towards more tropes and isn't the program it once was, but it did manage to maintain interest. So unfortunately, I'm going to give The Saint no bags of action out of 5, which I think is a first for me. There's no series to watch afterwards, so there's not really much of a reason to watch this. As I say, if a couple of the cast hadn't been so good, and I wasn't doing this review, I probably would have turned this off after 15-20 minutes. So, have you seen The Saint? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook or Twitter, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.